Working through 3E. 3E is focusing on understanding complete the square. So with complete the square, we need to be uh, making an equivalent relationship um, that helps us use the perfect square rule. So the first thing I'm going to get us to do is with x squared plus 6x minus 2, we need to think, is that in the standard form? It is. So we can skip over step one. We're going to make an equivalent relationship by thinking about what is half of b and squaring it. But for this, I'm going to keep it in this form and I'm not going to square it. So that means my b value is 6. So 6 over 2 is 3. So I'm going to leave it in the form 3 squared. Now with this, we are just going to be adding and then taking away the 3 squared. So we're just, like I said before, we're making an equivalent equation or an equivalent expression if I'm only focusing on the left-hand side. I always put the plus first. Now this part here, straight away in terms of the perfect square rule, which is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. I can check this. If a is x and b is 3, 3 times x is 3x times 2 is 6x. So that's where we're going to use that rule. Someone's going to rewrite it. We know our x is a and we know our b is 3. And I keep everything else the same on the outside. So I've got take away 3 squared, take away 2 equals 0. I'm just going to then simplify this outside part. So 3 squared is 9. Just remember this, that negative is not with 3. It's the 3's, which is positive, is being squared. That gives me negative, take away 9, take away 2, and that gives me take away 11. So this resembles the turning point form, where if it was equal to y, my turning point would be when x is negative 3, y is negative 11. The next part I'm going to look at is x plus 3 squared, take away 11 is equal to 0. So the first thing I'm going to do again is I'm going to solve and get x by itself. So that means I'm adding 11 to both sides. I'm going to get rid of the power of 2, so I'm square rooting both sides. Again, when we square root, it's going to give us two answers. One will be a positive and one will be a negative. And finally, I'm just taking away 3 to get x by itself. So I've got negative 3 plus or minus square root 11. I could have written it as plus or minus square root 11, take away 3. Next question will be 2x squared plus 8x minus 10 equals 0. So in this case here, we're going to want our a to be 1. So that means I want to get rid of this 2. So I'm just going to factor it out. That means I've divided 2x squared by 2 to get x squared. Negative 8x divided by 2 is negative 4x, and negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. I'm going to do the same thing. This time my b value will be negative 4. So negative 4 over 2 is just negative 2. So it's negative 2 squared. So I'm just going to, again, write a equivalent expression, or I make an equation, but I'm just adding and taking away the same thing, which means I'm not changing anything. This allows me to then look at the perfect square rule. Now, with the perfect square rule, instead of it being a plus b squared, it's going to be a take away b squared. I wrote down the 1, so I'm just going to change it. So we can see it's in this form a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Even though it's got take away 2 here, we know negative 2 squared is going to be a positive. So the next part is knowing what is my a and what is my b. My a is going to be x and my b is going to be negative 2. As what you can tell when I'm writing my equivalent relationship, I've got the plus first and then I've got the takeaway second. So I rewrite it with bigger brackets. So I've got the 2 on the outside and then I've got x minus 2 bracket squared, take away what's left over, which is negative 2 squared, take away 5, and that's in brackets 7. We do need to simplify this now. So that means negative 2 squared becomes 4. So it's take away 4, take away 5. And then it's negative 4 take away 5 is negative 9. If I wanted to just keep it in turning point form, I would just expand and get rid of this second. So it'll be 2 times that first bracket, and then 2 times negative 9 equals negative 18 equals 0. But because we're solving, I'm not going to deal with bigger numbers when I don't need to. If I divide everything by a number on the outside, it cancels out that, and 0 divided by 2 is 0. The next step is getting the 9 onto the other side. So I'm just going to plus 9, and that gives me x minus 2 squared equals 9. To get rid of the power of 2, I will square root. Remember, a square root gives me a positive and negative answer, so I'll have positive and negative 3. And finally, I plus 2 to both sides. So that gives me 2 answers. One will be positive 3 plus 2 is 5. The other answer will be negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Okay. So the next question is x squared equals 5 take away 7x. So first thing we need to do is rewrite, um, and that means getting everything onto one side to be in standard form. So I'm just going to take away the 5 and plus 7x. That gives me x squared plus 7x minus 5 is equal to 0. This allows me to see what b is, and b is going to be 7. So what I'm going to add and take away is just going to be 7 over 2 in brackets squared. I will keep it in that form because it does make it easier. So we're just going to rewrite our equation, but we're just adding in 7 over 2 squared and we're taking 7 over 2 squared. Make sure that adding comes first. The next part is we're going to factorize using the perfect square rule. The perfect square rule is a plus b squared is equal to a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. The final step here is we are then going to use this perfect square rule and plug in our values. So we know a is x and we know b is 7 over 2. So I'm just going to plug that in, and then what's left over is this part over here. Take away 7 over 2 squared, take away 5. Again, we're just going to simplify, so that means 7 squared is 49, 2 squared is 4, take away 5 equals 0. We are going to make the 5 to be out over 1, because we need our denominators to be the same to simplify. 5 over 1, to get 1 to 4, we times it by 4. So we times the 5 by 4 and make it 20 over 4. This allows us to then subtract our function. So negative 49 take away 20 will be negative 69 over 4. Now, to simplify, we get x by itself. So that means we're adding 69 over 4 to both sides. We're going to square root. So if we square root 4, it will just be 2. And if we square root 69, we just leave it as square root 69, but it'll be plus and negative. The last part is we're just going to get x by itself by taking away 7 over 2. Now we can simplify this because our denominators are the same, so I'm just going to make it as one fraction. So it'll be x is equal to plus or minus square root 69, take away 7 over 2. The last question that we'll do will be x squared minus 5x is equal to negative 2. First thing we're going to do is we're going to rewrite an expression in standard form. So that means I will get the negative 2 to my left-hand side by plussing. The next part is I'm looking at my b, and my b is -5, so that means it'll be -5 over 2 squared. Step 3, we're just making an equivalent expression, so we're just adding, subtracting the same thing. Remember, we do adding first. Now I've got this. The next thing we need to be doing is looking at the perfect square rule. The perfect square rule, we know it's got a takeaway here, which means it's a minus b squared is equal to a squared minus 2ab plus b squared. Our a value is going to be x. Our b value will be -5 over 2. So I just put that into the first part into the rule. And then what's left over is negative. If we take away -5 over 2 squared plus 2. Now I just need to simplify this. We know -5 squared becomes 25 and 2 squared becomes 4. The next step is I make 2 to be out of 1, and I just need to get the denominators the same. So that means I need to times 1 by 4, and I times 2 by 4 to get to 8 out of 4. This makes it a bit easier now because now they are the same. We can simplify. -25 plus 8 equals -17. So we -17 over 4. This is in turning point form currently. So we are going to solve for x, which means I'm going to get rid of -17 over 4 by adding it to the other side. I'm going to square root. Remember, when we square it, we'll be square rooting the top and the bottoms of my function. So square root of 17 will stay square root of 17 plus or minus, and square root of 4 is 2. The final step is getting rid of the takeaway 5 over 2, so we add it to both sides. That gives me plus or minus square root of 17 over 2 plus 5 over 2. I can simplify that if I wanted to make it one fraction. And make sure you keep your plus or minus next to the square root of 17.